All right, I'm going to start making the video for this lesson 9-2, the surface area of a rectangular prism, but bell's going to ring in the middle and interrupt me, so we'll just deal with that. And I just wanted to get started anyway. So surface area of prisms. So prisms, as you recall from the last lesson, are three-dimensional shapes. And to find the surface area of a prism, there's a couple ways you can go about it. You can unfold it into a net, as is demonstrating right here on the screen. Or you can just find the area of each side of the prism, which is essentially what you do when you unfold it into a net anyway. So as long as you know how to find the area of a rectangle, then you're going to be able to find the area of the rectangular prism pretty easily. So here's a net. Like I said, it's demonstrating this. So here's the prism itself. And if you unfold it, that is what the net is. So I'm going to just, so let me pause on, no, that's so rude. Hang on. Get unfolded. And let's see if I can pause it. No, okay, it's going to be rude. So anyway, it's just like it shows, and then it shows you all of the different surfaces or the different sides or panels of the prism. And so once you find the area of each of those panels or surfaces, then you can add them together, and that is going to make your total surface area. So if you were looking at this prism here, it's just to read what it says here. We've got the top panel, and that's going to be the same. It's going to be congruent with the bottom. And then we've got this one side here, and that's going to be congruent with the side we can't see over on this side. And then we've got this other side panel here, and again, that's going to be congruent with that. So if you found the surface area, if you want to find just the area of this, and this, that's going to be half of your prism, and you could then multiply that by 2, and that would be your total surface area. There's a lot of ways to approach this. So there we go. So this is what it looks like. You can see here that the back and the front are congruent, the bottom and the top are congruent, and then the two sides are also congruent. So if you just find one of each of these, then you can duplicate that to match these, or you can do it like find the side and then double that, find the back, double that for the front, find the bottom, double that for the top, or you can find them all individually. Find this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and then add them all together. There's lots of ways to approach it. So let's try the example. They're going to walk us through it in a little more detail here. So here's our example rectangular prism. We've got 10 centimeters, 6 centimeters, and 8 centimeters are our three dimensions. And we can turn this into a net eventually. So they like you to label them just so you can keep track of which one's the front, the top, the back, and the different sides. And so here, if you come down and this isn't going to fit on the screen properly. So it says step 1, draw and label the front face and side faces. So we can use graph paper. It's recommended for this because then you can use each little individual unit to represent whatever they've got here. So in this case, 10, 6, and 8. The dimensions of the front, that would be this one, are 6 centimeters, no, 8 centimeters tall by 10 centimeters long. And then the side is also 8 centimeters tall, and it's 6 centimeters wide. So we can draw that as a net down here. They're just using each individual unit to represent one of the centimeters. Then we're going to add our new section. Okay, so they're adding this new section here, which is what? Is this going to be the side, the back, or the top and the bottom? So if we look here, it looks like it's congruent with the side. So let's see if that's the right answer. Okay. And then we can label those. We already know what they are. It is 8 centimeters tall and 6 centimeters wide. Okay. And then we're going to add these other two panels. This is the top and the bottom faces. So we know that because those are going to fold in this direction instead. And then we can figure out their dimensions as well. We've got length and width in this case. So the top and the bottom, they are 10 centimeters long and 6 centimeters wide. It really, like, if you mix those up, it's not a big deal. You can multiply in any order and still get the same answer, so it's okay. And then finally, we've got our last section here, and that's going to represent the back. So we have the front here. This is the same size as the back. And then we can label this one is 10 centimeters long and 8 centimeters tall, just based on, so tall is the height here, length is this way. All right. There's our net. That took a long time, it maybe feels like, but that's this is the only one way of approaching it. There's another way of approaching surface area. So if you don't like this method, stay tuned for the next one. But in any case, here are our different surfaces that we can now find the area of each individual one and then add them all together to get our final surface area. So that is how to make the net. Try it out in the check, and we're going to move on. Eventually. There we go. So the surface area of a rectangular prism is the sum of the areas of the faces. So the net we just created is one way of figuring out what all of the faces are and then finding the individual areas of each face. And then once you've done that, you can take the sum of all those areas and then you'll get the surface area. In other words, the area of the entire prism. So the net is one way to do that. So here is a little demonstration.
Use nets to find surface area of rectangular prisms. One way to find the surface area of rectangular prisms is to use a net. A net is a two-dimensional pattern that can be used to build a three-dimensional figure. Open the prism and use a marker to label the rectangular prism top, bottom, front, back, side 1, and side 2. Measure the length and width of each face and then calculate the area, beginning with the top. 3 inches by 2 inches. Write the dimensions and calculate the area, 6 square inches. Opposite faces of a rectangular prism have the same dimensions, so they are congruent. The bottom face will have the same area as the top face, 3 inches by 2 inches. Write down the dimensions. Now, measure the front face and write down the dimensions. 3 inches by 4 inches. The area is 12 square inches. The back face will have the same dimensions as the front. Measure side 1, 2 inches by 4 inches. The area is 8 square inches. Side 2 will have the same dimensions as side 1. Now that the area has been calculated for each face, calculate the sum of the areas. The surface area of the rectangular prism is 52 square inches.
Adding all of those together. Okay. So there's that. And final example for this lesson. All right, so here they've got the net already created for you. They've folded this out. So we'll talk about how to do that, but I also just want to point out for those of you that are ready to skip this net step, it is possible. What you would want to do here is just find the area of each of these 3 sides. These are the 3 different sides that you can see. And then the hidden ones would be the one in the back, this other side, and then the bottom. But they are all congruent with these. So what you could do And if you want to skip the next step, is you could take your area, you could do your 6 times 8, your 6 times 10, and your 8 times 10 separately. You'll get 3 different products from those multiplications. So 6 times 8 is 48, 8 times 10 is 80, and then 6 times 10 is 60. And if you add those 3 together, that will give you half of this prism, because it'll give you one of each of the sides. And then you can multiply that by 2. So that's just a quick way of going about this. Or you can unfold it into a net and you can kind of do this little thing that they were just showing you. So let's walk through it. Here we go. Okay, so since the corresponding faces are congruent, like I just mentioned, multiply the area of one face by 2 to find the area of each pair of faces. So instead of finding side and side separately, you can just find the side one time and then multiply that by 2, and that will include both of the sides. So select the buttons. Where are they? Here we go. Front and back. So that's these. They're congruent. So 10 times 8 is going to be 80. And then we can multiply that by 2 and we'll get 160. So that's part of our area. Then we can do the sides, which are these two. So we've got 6 times 8 this time. 6 times 8 is 48. And then we can multiply that by 2 because there's 2 of them. And then we get 96. And then finally, we could do that for the top and the bottom, which is 6 times 10, which is 60. And then since there's 2 of those, we would multiply by 2 and get 120. So that gives us 3 numbers to work with instead of 6. And then we would just add those together to get the total surface area. So this is the total, the front and the back combined, the top and the bottom combined, and the sides combined. And then we add those all up and we get 376. Why does the unit measure square centimeters rather than centimeters or cubic centimeters? Because we're talking about area, and so it is just the flat. It's two-dimensional still, even though the shape is three-dimensional. We're not filling it right now. We're just measuring like how much wrapping paper we would need to cover the box or something like that. And that's going to be square centimeters. If we were filling the box up, then we'd be dealing with cubic centimeters. And if we were just measuring the edges or the sides, that's where the regular centimeters comes from. So try the check, and then we'll talk a bit more about this in class. If that felt easy for you, you're in luck because the next 2 lessons are still surface area. They're just different shapes, different types of prisms, but it'll be a very similar process. So stay tuned for that.